founder's only really successful when they put themselves out of a job. My definition of success for myself is when I'm definitely not needed anywhere around. Is your product really better? Things never work out the way founders want. You have a dream for a product, you lie in bed, you plan it. Is it really as good as you thought, or are you going to have to work twice as hard? That's the difference between founders who make it and those who don't. If you only concentrate on East Asian, freshly made, nutritious food without chemicals in it, you'll find, well, we're really lucky, we can sell it anywhere in the world. A chicken gyoza we sell in Mumbai would be identical to the one in Toronto. There's no need to change it.
What about at Pret, where it's...
That was different. That's much harder.
Julian, thank you so much for doing this again. I absolutely loved our first conversation. It was just, mind was sort of bubbling with wisdom afterwards. So yeah, thank you. There's so much I want to explore with you today. But what I'd love to start with, and I was speaking to Nadia this morning about this tension between founders, and when you start a business, you've got this thing called founder mode, and as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, it becomes more operational. I think that's an inherent tension in businesses, and I want to start with, well, two things actually. So one is, I don't know if you know Libby Gibson at Piper.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing, and she's got this thing called the 7-17-70 principle. So she says businesses whether you scaling ITSU, you scaling Pret, so you go. The founder has to change from when you go from 7 stores to 17 stores to 70. Like there's a massive change in the way the business is run. But one of the inherent problems is that you can sometimes lose that founder's magic and like spark. Anyway, so I've always thought about this tension, and it's been kind of on the tip of my tongue. I've been trying to grasp what it is. And then I read an essay the other week by Paul Graham. And Paul Graham is the guy who set up YC Combinator. Silicon Valley made loads of startups. They invested in Airbnb, Twitch, Coinbase, Reddit, Stripe. And in this essay, we'll kind of read a bit of that and we'll detail it. It's a talk by Brian Chesky, he's the founder of Airbnb. And he's got all the best founders, or some of the most successful founders in the room. And he says this. He says the theme of Brian's talk was that conventional wisdom about how to run larger companies is mistaken. As Airbnb grew, well-meaning people advised him that he had to run the company in a certain way for it to scale. Their advice could be optimistically summarized as hire good people and give them room to do their jobs. He followed this advice, and the results were disastrous. And what he's basically saying is the bigger and bigger you get, he then goes on to say, founders feel like they're being gaslit from both sides, by the people telling them they have to run their companies like managers, and by the people working for them when they do. Usually when everyone around you disagrees with you, your default assumption is that you're mistaken. And he says, VCs who haven't been founders themselves don't know how founders should run company, and C-level executives as a class include some of the most skillful liars in the world. He says, there are no books specifically about founder mode. There's no business school doesn't teach you about founders mode. And I went to business school, and I always felt like there weren't any founders teaching these lectures. It was almost like a farmer trying to teach ice hockey. Do you know what I mean? It's a completely different sport, completely different thing. And I would love to know how your texture as a founder has changed, or how you've had to change as you've gone from that sort of 7-17-70 journey with Pret and now ITSU.
It's a big subject.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time.
And if you're so the purpose of your podcast is you want your audience, you're trying to get founders. I mean, you want founders to listen.
Yeah.
To you. Because what you're saying is there's not a lot of advice for people who start a business, to found a business, who have a vision for a product. Like, how are they going to grow it without all these pitfalls? That's It's a very difficult subject. And I 17-70 sounds quite It's listen. At the end of the day, it's not nearly as complicated as people want to make out. At the end of the day, it's about a relationship between the product and the customer. So everything really is about that relationship, the product and the customer. And as long as you keep always coming back to that, the rest is not that complicated. In other words, if you think everything, the relationship between what it is you're trying to make and sell and the relationship with the consumer, if that's 70% of the issue, the remaining 30 shouldn't really cause that many problems. Don't get me wrong, it does. It does. And we can explore why, but it's really not that difficult. In my experience over the ever since I've started, on the whole, where we've tripped up, where I've gone wrong, where we've all hit a brick wall, is when we've lost touch with the simple formula of the product and the customer.
And is it this operation mindset, and the more managerial the company gets, that it can sometimes?
Well, yeah, obviously, because by its very nature, as you grow, the process by which you create a product, develop a product, innovate your product's going to get more complex, and it can often hit a brick wall, where suddenly there's either the process is broken or the process is so complicated that it's lost its heart and soul. And then it calls for someone in the business, it could be the founder, it could be the CEO, to say, hold on a minute, we've fallen behind on this.
When did that happen with Pret?
Well, I think it's very interesting, isn't it? It's always at the risk of happening.
Yeah.
It's there every day. Every day you have to ask yourself, are we on top of this? Is our product stimulating and wonderful and offering value for money to our customers? And are we serving this product in a way which is, better or as good as, or ideally better than the competition? So you just have to be very, very honest. And that's why sometimes founders are useful, because they tend to be sort of more direct and they have sometimes a really good understanding of what it is we're trying to achieve. But in my experience, a great many leaders in a business, certainly Pret and Manger and clearly ITSU, it's not the founder who really makes it all happen. It's a combination of the vision and the leadership and the day-to-day leadership.
That's what I'm trying to get to. It's that tension between sort of the operations and the managers. Because I think if you go to founder mode, it becomes chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean, founder mode? I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's what
for people watching this, I suppose people are going to be asking, are you a business manager of people and product, or are you a founder? Well, as a founder, what's your role? Your role is to have a vision for your product and your people, and to help the team get their head around what it is we're trying to achieve. What is our purpose? And that can disappear, or it can be watered down. So maybe that's the only purpose of a founder, really. Because for a founder to build a successful business, you can only do it with lots of really very capable people. The CEO, the boss of ITSU Grocery, is far a superior intellect, manager, a discipline than I could ever be. But together, it's maybe the harmony comes from a combination of us. And the same with Pret and so many things.
And when you say, and this is what I'm trying to get to, there's, as you said, what is founder mode? And this is what Paul Graham's saying.
I think it's about the product. It's about the product. I don't think it's actually complicated. You see, if we make this too complicated, not only will people switch off and get bored, but listen, it's very simple. It's about the product, almost nothing else. The purpose of the founder is to really never stop trying to make their product better, I think. So let's. When is it not about the founder, the product? Then when, think of it. Think of anything. Sometimes people make products and they're about price. In other words, you make a product which is dirt cheap, because fine, then it's about being unbelievably efficient and incredibly competitive. In our case, we've tried to create a product which adds real value to the customer in terms of how delicious it is, how pure it is, how it's made without chemicals and UPS and additives. That's what we stand for. And we've done it in a particular sector, which is East Asian food. Pret a Manger was about, unbelievable efficiency for the consumer. It was about speed. It was about being so convenient, as well as, a superior product, because it was always made in every Pret. So, but in both cases, it's about the product. And it could be that you make a telephone, or you make a computer, or you make a cup, or you make a glass. It doesn't matter what, I think.
That's one thing we talked about a lot last time. I think one of your abilities is to find simplicity and complexity. And I think you said it to me last time. You said simplicity is hard, complexity is easy.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. And in terms of, but the managerial side can get complex, i.e. meetings about meetings.
Yeah, the managerial side will get complex. That's a fact.
How do you find simplicity in that?
So if there's one of the roles of a founder or a CEO is to continuously try and work out, are we getting complicated for the sake of it? Because layers of complexity will always come in.
Yeah.
Always, from when you go from 1 to 2, when you go from 1 person to 3, complexity will come in.
Yeah.
I mean, complexity is like a virus. It's just everywhere.
Yeah. I interviewed the founder of Brewdog, James Watt, the other week. And the analogy he said, it was like barnacles on a boat.
Yes.
And he goes, over time, you won't notice a few barnacles.
Exactly.
But then in a year's time, you look and you suddenly got 100 barnacles there.
Yeah.
And this is slowing the boat down. So and he goes, my role is just to clean the barnacles.
Yeah,
he's right. Them off.
It's that simple.
And but then when you go from, let's go back to Libby's 7/17/70, when you're going from 17 to 70 sites, I know this is quite a reductionist way of looking at it. It just makes it simple.
Yes.
What are some of the complexities that came into the business, and not necessarily just with the managerial side? I'm talking about in general. And how did you begin? How did your brain work to really slice away and simplify that?
When you go from what did you say, 17 to 70?
17/70.
Okay. So when you go from 70, it doesn't matter if it's 17 or 20 or 50. The same challenges are going to apply, which is you get very distant from the day-to-day, coalface your consumers. You're going to not be on top of things at all. So you've got to have a really pretty good system, pretty good process by which you keep your product great. Because you see, if it's all about the product, that's what matters. How do you keep your product great? And that product, and how that product is served and packaged. If that's all that really matters for you to keep your competitive edge and to survive and thrive, you've got to, as you say, barnacles. Because the barnacles will come and they'll impede your competitive edge.
What were some? So
when you go from 17 to 18, you're going to get weaker. When you get from 20 to 23, you're going to be weaker. Of course you are. So how are you going to fill those gaps? What are you going to do? What structure are you going to make where you can carry on? Have you ever been to the Forbidden City in Beijing? It's absolutely amazing. Apparently, it's a bit like Walmart. They used to bring everybody in. I think once a month. Hundreds upon hundreds of people would travel days. It's all about communication in that case. A bit like Walmart. How do you communicate to the people who you work with? How do you communicate your core messages? Weekly, monthly. We have a team brief in ITSU. Every day, every morning. We have so many ways of trying to communicate, to share. This is what because it's. Every day, invariably, things are being watered down. Complexity is coming in.
And what are some of those ways you communicate? I think
I've got it. I mean, it's all about a lot of. The minute you go from 1 person to 2 in any business, it's about communication. Well, it's about the vision, the product, and then it becomes about communication. Because when you have more than 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5 human beings, they've got to stay aligned, haven't they? They've got to agree a purpose.
How did the communication change from when you were in those super early days to when? Let's use Pret as the example. To when Pret got. Massive.
It didn't really change at all.
It didn't.
No, because it just got bigger. Yeah, I mean the system we use to communicate probably changed. But,
how did that change?
I don't know. The way you communicate. With 1 person is clearly different to where you communicate weekly with 200, but it's not that difficult. We have ITSU. We all get together often. We all get together every single week here. We get together every single day in every restaurant. We get together every single 3 months. We share information with each other. That's just common sense. That's absolutely vital. But then you dig into what are we sharing and why, and that doesn't actually change that much. What we share and why, I don't think it's changed since the day we started, really. It's about the product, it's about the people, it's about the customers. Quite obvious.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is what I loved our conversation last time, is your ability to find the simplicity and complexity. Because
listen, it's
so many
very,
people
very, very.
will get really confused by those people.
When you employ, let's say, a couple of thousand people, and so when you employ a couple of thousand people in your business, you're invariably going to be employing more or less all the time, because people leave, people come. So then you have to try and document, well, what qualities are we looking for? Well, what are the qualities over time of the people who've really made a big difference for the benefit of our business and our customers? So in ITSU, for years and years, we've evaluated everyone who works with us all the time on just 4 qualities. And we all know they're used all the time. So we've made something really complicated, like personality of a human being, into, okay, these are the 4 things which over time we've realized really, really matter.
What are they?
In our case, oh goodness, well, the first one is I care. So I care, I take pride, I want to grow, and I build trust. Those are the 4. Everything. If you worked at ITSU, and after 3 months, or every 3 months, or twice a year, you would be evaluated upon those 4 things.
So
you personally, I want to grow, I build trust, I care, I take pride. And how is that helpful? Well, because let's say, take any one. Go on, care, pride, trust. Right? You name one, and I'll give you an example.
Care.
You care. Okay. So you've been, the last 3 months, you've been particularly tricky in the office. You've upset people. You've been disrespectful to people. You're just not, you show no patience. You are just disruptive, rude. In other words, you really don't seem to care, or you lack empathy. Or let's say the reverse. You care. You've developed. You keep on giving people your time, your development time. You keep on investing them. You seem to be nurturing the couple of people you work with really well. You keep on showing signs that you care about your work. You care enormously about your product. You care enormously about the people you work with. You're taking a kind of a long-term view to your work and your relationship with the people. That's what we're looking for. So we're able to use I care as an example.
Sure.
To talk to you. It'll help you. So if you had arrived, for this podcast, and all your batteries had been completely dead because you hadn't been bothered yesterday to recharge them, it would be an example to say, how can you honestly talk, say you care about your work when you can't be bothered to charge your batteries the day before? Are you a professional, or are you just an amateur? Do you pursue excellence? So care and excellence thing. Whereas I build trust is completely different. Build trust is a fundamental characteristics we've found over many years, which is so fundamental. Are you open? Are you honest? Do you really get to the heart of the matter, or are you just a political animal talking bullshit? Are you a bullshitter, basically?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things on that. So I think the care thing is really interesting. So Seth Godin, do you know who Seth Godin is?
Yeah, of course I do, yeah.
See, he's been on his podcast. I've interviewed him twice since we spoke.
He's fantastic.
He's absolutely amazing.
Awesome, yeah.
It was, just couldn't believe I actually interviewed him. It was kind of crazy, but
yeah.
He's got a quote I love, which is, the professional is hard on themselves,
yeah,
and the amateur is soft on themselves. And by that, it means the people that really care are like constantly looking at their work, thinking, that's shit. Not saying that's shit, but it's like a bit like you with the product. You're looking at your product being, you've got to look at your product and say, this is crap, for it to get better.
I agree. So that's why we convert that into that word care.
Care, amazing. Yeah. And then on the trust.
On trust is obvious.
So how
everyone watching this podcast has at some time worked for somebody they don't really trust. They're in it for themselves. They're kind of smoke and mirrors, a bit of a bullshitter. Building trust is a very, very important, fundamental thing to us, the success of a group of people working together. It really, really is important. Like I want to grow is important. If your company is growing and you have ambitions to sell more of your product to more people, and you are growing, you need to have people who want to grow. You need to have people who are prepared to take a risk and take on more responsibility, and people who are prepared to be accountable, people who are prepared to judge their work. Are you prepared to put the extra hours into editing this podcast until it's really good? Or are you prepared to push the button, release it when it's kind of half done because you want to go out and go to the pub? It's down to you in the end. In other words, I want to grow. There's a real amazing relationship between I care and I want to grow.
Go into that relationship.
And not everyone wants to grow, which is fine.
What describe that relationship between care?
Well, there's obviously they're completely linked, like one of those Venn diagrams that you did at school. Unless you want to grow, caring about excellence, being bothered about excellence, is fundamental to growing. Mm-hmm. And you'll find wanting to grow is more. It kind of fuels that respect for excellence. That last mile, that last 5%, or whatever it is. They are related. And not everyone wants to grow. And that's fine too.
On the trust thing, I think people, like in any organisation, people can wear masks. I know there's a thing about Robert Greene, which I love, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, and he says a lot of people you'll come across are wearing masks, and they can almost wear a mask that says I care, I'm trustworthy.
A lot. In the corporate world, a lot. A huge amount.
How do you, and this may be where the founder mode comes in, how do you sort of spot that mask, or how do you pierce
Well, it takes time. You often can't at the beginning, because people who are, a great many people in the corporate world climb the corporate ladder because they are very presentable, they're very believable, and they're very political, and they are, as human beings, we all kind of tend to want to believe people. We want to give people a chance. But then what they are usually not, and it takes time, is they are not accountable. They're not accountable at all for their own results, their own work, their own anything. But they're very, very politically astute. And in the corporate world, those people can do really, really well.
Did you ever have people like that as Pret became bigger, and what did you do when you found
all
those
businesses
people?
do. All businesses do.
And what do you do when you find those people? What you find behind the mask?
It's not my job to find them. It's usually the institution that that we all find that they stick out in the end. Sometimes after a year, sometimes after 6 months, sometimes after 3 years. It just depends. The company, if most people in your organization are not like that, those who are get found out.
I want to talk about...
and they move to somewhere else usually.
Yeah. I want to talk about Pano Christo, who was, I don't know if you saw this, but on LinkedIn it went completely viral about his journey at Pret.
Right.
And for listeners, he's now the CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, but he started out, I think I read somewhere that he was the son of a taxi driver getting paid £2.75 working at McDonald's, grew up in Tooting. Based on those sort of care, pride, trust and growth, what were some of the, because let's assume everyone does that at your organisations, Julian.
Yeah.
What were the underrated / different characteristics in Pano that you believe helped him soar upwards?
Well, often people who come, which is, let's face it, 99% of us, don't come from, didn't go to some remarkable university and were born with endless privilege. It takes time sometimes for people, or sometimes most people never, thank goodness, really understand the political, what it takes to, rise up in a commercial organization quickly. So in someone like Pano's case, he rose up because he obviously built trust. He wanted to grow. He cared. He fulfilled those four. He must have done.
Yeah, what sort of stuff was he doing to
I should think it was a combination of how people worked with him, I guess, how his results, the amount of customers he satisfied, the people who enjoyed working with him, I should think. Just the four things. I mean, his success would have been entirely driven on those four things. Nothing else. There is nothing else.
It's mad how you,
and we go
these things
deeper.
are so simple.
It's so simple.
Yeah, I know, but it's so simple to you, but it's so complex. I think people, as you say, complexity is easy. Like even I get in a tiv about things, just making things complicated. I think it's part of human nature.
Those four things are everything. But in ITSU, we take it to one level on, which we then call it the Bs. We have 5 more, which help guide us and guide everyone who works with us. And those Bs, if in doubt, think of the Bs. If in doubt, if you don't know whether to turn left or right, think of the B.
What are the Bs?
In ITSU's case, our B says we have be thankful, be clear, be accountable, be clear, be there. That's an interesting one.
Going to be there.
So be there, be clear, be accountable, be brave, be thankful. Those are the Bs. Sometimes I get them muddled up. I should think of a word, and then so I always think of them in the same order. Be there. Aye. So be there. In the case of retailing and hospitality, you've got to stay close to your customers and the people who work for you. You've got to be there. You've got to attend. You can't run a hospitality business like you can a great many businesses. You've got to be there. In fact, all leaders need to be there. It doesn't matter really what you do. You can't, if you don't truly understand what it's like for your consumer, your customer, you're not going to be successful. You've got to be there. You've got to be there. In the same way, the other 4, you've got to be accountable. You've got to truly be accountable.
Well, be thankful.
Be thankful is interesting.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Because when things go well, they will have been because of the effort and dedication of the people you work with. So make sure you're grateful, always. Recognize the fact that the difference between excellence and mediocrity is very often hard work, determination, honesty. I want to grow, I build trust, I care. And you need to recognize it, and you need to be grateful for it, but you should never take it for granted, ever. So being thankful is a basic one.
I suppose be thankful, and that gratitude allows you to be there. It makes you care about the customers when you're super grateful. Those are
well, in your case, you're only, to set all this equipment up, someone's got to get it, make it, charge it all, get it working. But if you don't recognize the difference between someone who's good or bad at that, I mean, it's all about human effort, the people you work with. So be grateful when it happens well. Be grateful, recognize it.
Yes.
Don't take it for granted.
Yeah, be thankful.
But be thankful that it's gone well.
Yeah,
the person you're working with didn't leave half of it in the Uber by mistake.
Yeah. The other thing that where Pret, especially in the case of Pano, has bucked the trend is, I feel a lot of people will go and work for an organisation, especially in today's time, do get 2 or 3 years, as they say, sort of build out the CV and then bugger off somewhere else.
Yeah.
You've done one. Well, I don't know how long Hannah was at Pret, but it's 20 plus years. I think Marta, who was at Gales, she was with you guys for ages. I think founders losing talent is one of those sort of hidden costs where you think, oh, everyone's replaceable, but sometimes it costs you so much money actually finding someone new, the onboarding.
Yeah.
Keeping great talent is such an underrated skill for businesses and founders to do, especially if they're good. You don't want any dead weight. You don't want barnacles. In the training program that you guys have developed and the leadership program, like what were you doing to get these people to stick around for like not just 5 years, a long time, we're talking 10, 15 years. Like what were you doing differently versus other businesses that kept them here?
No, it's a good question. Hopefully trying to create an environment which enabled them to thrive. An environment where their IQ, the IQs, the 4, were able to buzz and come alive each day. A place where they were able to care, and their care was respected and valued. A place where they were able to grow. A place where they were able to build trust. And a place where they made a product they were proud of. Those are the 4. Again, comes back to the 4. Nothing else matters. Actually, when people leave, it's often a good thing because it gives an opportunity for someone else to come up behind them. So I've never really worried too much about when people have the guts to leave an organization to maybe go off and take on a bigger responsibility or start up on their own. It's great. It's great. The product, what you offer, should be bigger than any of us, including the founder, frankly. A founder's really only successful when they put themselves out of a job. That's just a simple fact. A founder is only really successful when they put themselves out of a job. It's hard to do sometimes. My definition of success for myself is when I'm definitely not needed anywhere around.
When would you not be needed at ITSU?
Well, in terms of ITSU Grocery, I work really well with a big team here, and we passionately care about the product and everything else. A lot of my time is spent on the innovation of the product, which I care massively. So maybe I add value, maybe I don't know. But I definitely care a lot about the innovation.
Yeah, I love it how you can boil it down to those four tenets and everything else happens. Do you offer specific leadership?
Founders have a rough step. I mean, the truth is, founders within the commercial world definitely have a tough time because they are often irrational, they're emotional, they're passionate, and those are qualities which often are at odds with the commercial. Emotions are very inconvenient to the making to money people. Often money, the making of amassing of money is often about data and emotion gets in the way, and it's a pain in the arse. That's for that reason many founders have got rid of.
This is what I started at the beginning, is that kind of, and no one can really detail exactly what it is, but it's that founder mode, which is the emotion, which is the creativity, which is the...
Yeah, it's the product. What it is, let's get back to where we were at the beginning. It's about the product.
Yeah.
And the money and the people who are pursuing only the creation of more money, right? The product, even the product's inconvenient. It's about money equals more money, and the product's just a pain. It could be T-shirts, it could be a sandwich, it doesn't matter what it is. It's about the lust for money. And that lust is often driven by their crumbs, what they get. They get a bit of it. In other words, they make another million, they get an extra, Ferrari or whatever it is they want.
What was the roughest...
Don't underestimate greed.
What was the roughest tension of founder care and love versus greed as you exited Pret? Because just actually before that, to give some context, because didn't it go in sort of 2 stages, the Pret exit, or how did that work?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it was 2, 3, 4, maybe. Yeah. I mean, there was a long process. As the company got bigger and bigger, we needed more funds. We sought the advice and sold shares to people who we thought were going to really help us. Then over time, we amassed too much. We amassed quite a lot of borrowings. We got nervous, so we brought in a partner to bring down those borrowings.
Why did you get nervous?
Well, because I don't know. A lot of people in 2008, things were really worrying. Things were bad for a great many people in commerce at that time. And if you've got a company which is trading well, but it has borrowings of huge, too much, you get nervous. I really admire people who built their companies with no debt at all. It's wonderful. You've got to be careful borrowing too much, So there were 3 or 4 stages when we brought in people, either for their expertise and they had shares or money,
And how did that friction of, as you said, the care?
Well, in our case, there wasn't much friction.
And how did you ensure there wasn't?
I think we chose the right partners.
And what was right about those partners? Because they
were right because they took a reasonably long-term view. They shared roughly the kind of values we had. The values I've been talking to you about, that I want to grow, I take pride. They kind of generally thought like we did. We didn't just,
Have you said you got nervous. Have you ever? I was speaking to a guy from Riverford the other day, and they said they hit a roadblock where they lost their confidence as a brand.
Yeah.
Have you ever lost your confidence in yourself and in your brand?
Yes, of course I have.
When?
Often. Sometimes it's destructive. And sometimes you wish the speed with which founders can innovate, the speed with which founders' vision can be tweaked and can sometimes be destructive. In other words, a founder may be over-worried sometimes that their product's not good enough, or sometimes they don't worry enough. But in my case, there have been many times when I thought we need to innovate more and.
And what did it feel like when you'd lost that confidence?
I don't know if... Let's just think. Hold on. What do you mean? Because other founders will be watching this we don't want to get confused between the loss of confidence and the loss of something which is different, which is excellence. So they're different.
How are they different?
Well, what matters with if you come back to the beginning over and over again to the product,
Yep.
if your product is not excellent and doesn't represent in its own way value for money, a founder, everyone, you should lose your confidence. You're the main thing is the product. And if you're doing a whole load of stuff wrong and your product is not better and it's not value for money, regardless of where it sits on the price graph, then you need to get your act together quick. Now, you could say that's loss of confidence. I don't think so. It's probably the reverse. It's about facing reality. Face reality. Which is, by the way, the greatest opportunity for the people watching your podcast, which is, comes back to the product. Is your product really better, or is it just a vision you had, which you've kind of half done? Things never work out the way founders want. You have a dream for a product. You lie in bed, you plan it at last year, is it really as good as you thought, or are you going to have to work twice as hard? But that's the difference between founders who make it and those who don't. Can you pivot? Can you tweak? Can you change?
Yes.
And you could call that a loss of confidence. It's not a loss of confidence. It's the reverse. It's I can look objectively at my product and it's not bloody good enough.
Yeah, it goes back to the amateurs easy on themselves, the professionals hard on themselves.
Yeah. So it's not a loss of confidence.
Yeah, it's not a loss of confidence.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because
because many people, by the way, watching this will have had a loss of confidence about their success or failure. In other words, things haven't worked out as successful as they thought, and they will translate that into I'm suffering from a loss of confidence, and it's very important. The answer to that is absolutely not what's happening at all. Their consumers, their customers are not buying their product because it's not as good as they hoped. So fix it.
Yeah,
fix it.
I interviewed a fascinating guy called James Smith, who's wrote a book called Confidence.
Right.
And he says, confidence isn't our relationship with success; it's our relationship with failure. I.e.,
right.
It's not about like, oh, I'm so confident because I'm successful.
Yeah.
It's I'm so confident because not that I don't care about failure. That's too sort of myopic. But like, it's that ability to almost say, like, okay, I'm looking at the product that's failed. That's good. It's as you said, it's insecurity.
So
it's actually confidence.
That's exactly what you've just said it better than I did, but that's the same thing.
Yeah. And
so it's your ability to be objective about what it is you're trying to do.
And what's the example of that where you've been the professional that's hard on themselves with a product?
Everyone I know who's been successful is hard on themselves with their product.
No. I mean with ITSU when a product's been born into the world, you've had this idea. And it could be maybe let's go into the grocery because
sure.
I think that's such a fascinating.
Okay.
What you guys are doing there is absolutely fascinating.
Okay.
So a product that was, in your eyes, shit. Let's just put it like that. How have you relentlessly done it, and how is it?
So listen, it's an important question. That number one, none of us founders or people, we don't make shit products on purpose.
Yeah.
If the products are not as good as they could be, it's all part of a journey. So we've never put out.
Say that again. The products.
Okay, we've never put out a product knowingly which is shit.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of people do because they'll put out shit because it's they can market it very, very well. They can pretend it's cheaper. There's a ton of smoke and mirrors when you're in our world of FMCG. I mean, tons. You can make a product and you can make it look like another product which costs 3 times as much, and many of us will buy it. We'll go online and we'll buy it, and then we'll be disappointed because it's made with all the raw materials and it's just crap. But in our case, no, we've never put out a product which we know is shit. We've very often put out a product where we haven't perhaps created something which is truly marvelous, because that's hard, really hard work. And we'll go back to it and we'll visit it and revisit it.
What's the extra gear to get to truly marvelous?
Combination of those 4 qualities. I want to grow. I build trust. It's a simple thing. You've got to have someone on the development team who says, guys, I know we launched this last year, but I think we can make it better.
What's common advice given to founders that is actually incredibly complex shit, basically, that they're told that you would completely disagree with?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm not sure.
So one would be I think all this managerial textbooks putting in systems when you don't need systems. I've seen it firsthand when I worked for a startup where we were a team of sort of 8 and you're acting like a team of 800.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot.
Yeah, and I think
it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
we're all guilty of that. Every company which grows very often stumbles there. They put in staggering complexity in process. In the effort to try and keep things simple, they put it, but actually all they do is rip the heart and soul out of the whole thing.
Yeah, so David Hyatt's got a great thing called speedboat versus shipliner. So speedboat is when you can just, imagine a speedboat, just dart in to try new territories, try things reverse out. And shipliner is when you're big, lethargic, going slowly. And I think brands get insecure, back to this, founders and or brands actually get insecure, thinking, oh my God, we're getting bigger, more revenue's coming in. We need to start acting like a shipliner. And then before you know it, it's completely slowed.
That happens all the time.
Speed's an interesting one. How do you operate at speed and agility and keep that going through simplicity?
We don't. But there are many aspects of our business which is sometimes just hit a complete brick wall.
Such as?
There's no point going into detail, but people lose their collective sense of urgency. Didn't Amazon say we act like a startup every day? I don't know if that's true, but there's no doubt in an effort to kill off stress and chaos, it's only natural. What people want to do is bring in more and more process, which is good. Chaos, stress is bad. Process, in the end, is the only way to deal with that. But what often happens is you go from a group of people who are passionate and good decision makers, and in an effort to reduce all chaos and all stress, they become basically the brakes just go on everything. And that's a natural reaction. You need these extremes. What you really want to do is be a company which stays in the middle. There's a good balance and a good harmony between innovation and change and process and not too much stress. And that's an elusive and never ever changing point, by the way.
That's Nassim Taleb calls it the barbell strategy.
Correct.
Yeah, which is where you're
so invariably in the swings, at any one point, sometimes you're way over here and way here.
There's a quote I love, which is "Chaos is a ladder." I don't know who that.
Chaos is a ladder.
Chaos is a ladder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I listened to a podcast that was attributed to Napoleon, but I could be completely fucking wrong there.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know how you've used chaos as a ladder as a company.
Well, I don't quite know what you mean by chaos as a ladder. What's that mean, do you think?
In my eyes, when things are going incredibly wrong, you can use that as an advantage. This is completely random.
Well, sometimes, if things are going completely wrong, it's a good reason to look at the communication or the team of people and find out what's gone wrong, where's the weak link, and change it. Good. It's not a science, the management of companies, but there's a lot of science and experience in the successful management of companies or a department, or usually keep it simple. If you've got a particular department which is completely underperforming, the reason for that invariably will be it's the leader of that department. It's very, very simple. And maybe they haven't had any management experience, or maybe they're an arsehole. There could be any reason. Maybe they don't have those 4 qualities at all. Who knows? But you need to know, and you need to find out, and you need to fix it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It's not that difficult, honestly. Really, it's not very difficult.
I'd love to know, I interviewed the founder of Innocent, Adam Ballon, who was brilliant. And we were talking about learnings outside of food and drink that you could actually, that kind of give you not an edge as a leader, but the stuff that gave him a slight, I love sort of the intersection of different things. And what we were talking about is he's got an obsession with racing around the track, like car racing.
Okay.
And he was saying that actually taught me a lot about building a challenger brand, in that you've got the sort of, back to that barbell we were talking about kind of gusto, oomph, going for it versus sort of data, analysis and stuff like that. And he goes, actually, that's what racing driving's taught me. It's taught me on the one hand just to go for it, but actually if you don't balance that out, as you say, it's a moving sort of pendulum with data, then you just go off the track. I'd love to know.
It's got exactly.
Yeah,
Well, to be very good at that particular thing, you need a harmony between brilliant product, wonderful engineering, passionate. You've got but the 4 qualities: I care, I build trust. Because you've got a whole team of people. Then you've got the balls and the nerves and the guts of the particular driver at a particular moment. So you need both. And the same with ITSU. Our restaurants are only successful when it's all working together. We are only as good as the managers and the people who are working right now in every single ITSU. And many of them are amazing. They give their heart and soul because they're committed. They really, really are. Those 4 qualities are sort of coming through every day. And we don't take it for granted. So it's a never-ending, in order for that to flourish, that harmony out in the field today, all over the country, it's absolutely critical that here in the heart of the place, we are allowing it to happen. We've got to feed it. We've got to feed their trust. You've got to allow them to grow. We've got to recognize that they care. That's our responsibility here. But at the end of the day, they are like the racing car driver. They're making it happen. It's their relationship with the customers, their relationship with the product, which makes the company successful. We're just oiling the wheels,
How do you oil the wheels? Because that's... Koyako is a Japanese noodle bar located in Hackney, London, offering a fast-paced dining experience inspired by Japan's train station eateries. It specializes in freshly made udon noodles and rich dashi broths. The menu is insane, a rich variety of hot and cold udon dishes, donburi rice bowls, and Japanese small plates like karaage chicken. I hope I've said that right. Also some banging seasonal vegetable tempura. Koyako brings authentic Japanese comfort food right to the heart of East London. They've got 2 locations, one in Hackney, one in Soho in the city. And look, if you want to get your mitts on this absolutely insane grub, use this promo code on your Uber Eats app, Koyako40. The details are as follows. You're going to get 40% off, up to 15 quid off, when you've got a minimum basket of £20. This wonderful offer, expires on the 28th of July. Get your mitts on Koyako. Thank you so much. How to get your challenger brand into more supermarkets and increase your current distribution in half the time. Range reviews are happening right now, right this millisecond. Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Tesco, Ocado, Co-op, all looking for new banging challenger brands. Don't miss this range review and have to wait another 6 months. It's long. Don't lose precious shelf space to competitors. Don't let your buyer pick another brand just because you didn't have a Grand Slam deck. Northstar Category Management help you create banging supermarket pitch decks so good that buyers find it impossible to say no to. Challenger brands like Perfect Ted, Trip, Bulbing Co, Dash all love Northstar. Look, I am so confident in Northstar transforming your brand. We've got an exclusive Hungry offer. Your first month for free. Yes, free. Plus, we're going to give you a free 30-minute consultancy session to see how your brand is currently performing in category. Click the link in the show notes to book your consultancy session and thank me later.
Well, up to some point process,
Yep.
to some point strategy and structure, but a lot of it's down to human energy, particularly in the hospitality business. It's down to their commitment and their energy and how we recognize that.
I find that so interesting, that energy. It's, I don't heard of the pub, the Devonshire in Soho, which is now all the rage.
Yeah.
But I interviewed Osh, the founder of that, the other day, and there's a when you go and get you can only notice something when it's not there, I think. So you go into the Devonshire, you have a pint of Guinness, and it's just this. Everyone's the Irish, their warmth. You just get this palpable warmth that kind of goes through you. And I was, but when you only notice it when it's not there. Then I went down to a pub down in Devon. I won't say what it is, but I was like, this place just feels cold and and vacant and just but the food was exceptional.
Yes.
How do you galvanize that energy and warmth in people? Like, how do you stoke it? How do you, as you say, oil it? Because I think it's something in my head that's complex, but I'd love to know how you could kind of simplify that, Julian.
Well, I think the 4 IQs, we call them IQ, ITSU qualities. So just allow them to breathe, allow them to be. I take pride. Invariably, the people pouring those drinks in the Devonshire are taking real pride. Someone's come up with a vision of doing it differently.
Yeah.
Do you know?
100%.
And that's wonderful. So they take pride. They really care. They really care. And because they care because for lots of different reasons, but they care, their customers care. So they're feeding off that. So you create harmony. It's like a circle where the pub you went to in Devon, clearly the vision is just not quite right there. Or the commitment isn't quite there.
Yeah, it's
Bit of
powerful. It's
both.
palpable. Yeah, it's palpable. It's just when you put the two.
It's a combination of the vision and the commitment isn't not quite there. So in ITSU's case, we put it, that after Brexit, that this country is facing some really difficult. The hospitality industry is facing some mega problems with the inflation of wages. I mean, it goes without saying. So we put in a great many kiosks, they're called, or ordering systems, which actually offer the customers a lot. You can bespoke your food much easier. You can pay quickly, but it's cold. And we put in 600 of them. We spent millions and millions of pounds. We did it too quickly, probably, and we lost some of that warmth. But we're getting it back. We are committed to. In fact, we're going back and putting more and more, putting some tills back in. So there's much more human contact soon.
Yeah.
But you live and learn. You make not everything's perfect at any one time.
Yeah.
But we still will stand by the fact that that we are way ahead of the market with our use of technology, because in the days of employing a great many people to do very mundane tasks on very low wages is over. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So it's can be quite challenging on our industry, actually. The hospitality industry, when you have huge labour and food inflation, is quite challenging, as you will have learnt from different people you've interviewed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's even I did an interview with a gorgeous pub, but in this way, the most warm place I've ever been. It's a small pub up in near Preston, actually, and it's weird. It's all based on sort of Dale or Bowie, but it's a French husband, wife, and she's from Lancashire. But the warmth in that place, you can't even imagine it. And he goes, we wake up every day and they call their work their paradise, and I love that. I go, wow. Our work is our paradise, and she goes, you're looking over these gorgeous moors.
Sure.
And she goes, this is paradise, and I kind of think it links a bit to your care thing. It goes, and actually it's to be thankful and the caring, because work can feel like paradise, and I think that's something that's really stuck with me. But the warmth. But anyway, what he was saying is he'd just been skiing with his son, and the VAT was like 5%. Whereas the VAT over here, he goes, we are fucked, because we're trying to keep this paradise going. We're trying to give this warmth, this care. You can just feel it. I mean, the guy's, he's in, I think he might have been in his 70s, but he's up at 5 a.m. doing the breakfast.
No, he's right. It's the industry we're in. It's very labour-intensive hospitality.
Yes, yeah.
Very. As we all know, when we cook at home, it takes hours.
Yeah.
Peeling and washing up, and it's very, very labour-intensive. Very labour-intensive. So it costs a lot of money to pay everybody. And on top of that, you expect everybody to work very hard and be warm, kind, thoughtful, generous, to create this paradise, or in our case, a kind of Zen-like calm and harmony. And it's extremely elusive. And most people give up, but we don't. The ITSU has so many incredibly committed people with those 4 IQs who really want to grow. They really have built trust. They take so much pride, and they bloody care. And providing we can keep fueling that and allowing that and encouraging that, we'll carry on being successful. But we have to be damn focused. There are many recipes we've changed 10, 20, 30 times in pursuit of excellence. If you can make something taste just a little bit better, then do it. If you have to charge 20p more for something rather than making it cheaper, then do it. Share it with your customers. Don't cheapen them. Don't expect them to be ignorant that they can't tell the difference, because people can tell the difference. In good food and bad, they really can. So you have to believe in that, in your customers' ability to recognize what you do. And that takes kind of harmony.
It does. I'd also know what makes you laugh.
Me? Oh, listen, we have the great sense of humour in this country. Pretty well anything.
That's what Nadia was saying when we were talking this morning. What I was saying to her is, punctuating serious hard work.
Yeah.
And it is a British thing with moments of
It's great.
hilarity, because it takes sort of the edge off. Whereas I think in America, it is way more kind of neoliberal. It's like, and it links to that greed thing. That tees me up nicely to doing business in different countries.
Yeah.
So I think Pret was in, and you're in a whole sort of...
I think Pret's in about 20 countries, isn't it?
20 countries.
Is it?
I don't have, my research has escaped me, apologies. But I'd love to know what's the different, what would be the sort of the craziest countries to do business in, where you've got this vision and these sort of the values that we've talked about and these kind of IQs or whatever they were for Pret, but then you sort of parachute us into different country and you're like, wow, this is complex. So I spoke to Mark Palmer about this.
It's not as difficult as you think. Like everything, it's always just go try and stick to the truth and keep things simple, which is human beings all over the planet, regardless if they were, all respond to those 4 IQs. It's really, really simple. So if you accept the fact that product is everything, regardless of what country you're in, you're invariably have to adapt your product to suit.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But you don't need to adapt the human brain, which is I care. I want to grow, I build trust, and I take pride. You don't need to change that.
So you don't need to change that.
No, but you need to tweak the product, obviously.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting to, is how did you tweak the product? Like,
well, if I care and I take pride is so important, and you expect people in a country, regardless of where it is, to take real pride in the food they sell. It's got to be food that they kind of understand and they love. It's no point, making someone in I don't know, France sell coronation chicken or something, because maybe it's something they've never eaten and they don't want. So you've got to work within the culture of where you're going. You've got to make those tweaks, which that's not that difficult to do.
What's the product you're most proud of that helped fit into?
In ITSU, we're very lucky because we only sell East Asian food.
Yeah.
So we sell and we spend a massive amount of time, effort, and trouble in the countries. I'm going to Japan for the 2nd time this year next week. So Japan, Japanese food, Korean food, Vietnamese, Chinese. We really work very, very, very closely with our suppliers. So our food, if you only concentrate on East Asian, freshly made, nutritious food without chemicals in it, you'll find we're really lucky. We can sell it anywhere in the world. In other words, the people who live in Canada or Australia or in Mumbai, they understand and mainly they like East Asian food. They're particularly strong flavors, confidence, a look and feel, whether it be rice, noodles, broth, dumplings, obviously.
Sure.
So we're really lucky that we've only do that type of food. So we don't have to change our food much. In other words, a chicken gyoza we sell in Mumbai would be identical to the one in Toronto. There's no need to change it.
What about at Pret, where it's...
that was different. That's much harder.
So let's talk about that.
Obviously, I mean, that's
what I'm saying. So let's say, because I think I've got it here. So let's compare Q8 Hong Kong, Greece.
No, I can't. I mean, that's really complicated.
How's it complicated?
Pret a Manger came out of a UK thing about, it was very, very much United Kingdom food.
Yeah.
Chilled sandwich, square bread with stuff. It's an English thing. Ready to eat. Pret a Manger means ready to eat. So if Pret a Manger, if it's ever going to be really successful in these foreign countries, it's got to completely adapt what it does. And it hasn't done that yet. But it is still thriving in travel hubs, where people want good food made freshly in a hurry. So if you put Pret a Manger pretty well in any airport in the world, it's going to do well.
Yes, of course.
But will it do well as a place for people to meet and hang around, selling food which the local population have no idea what it is? I doubt it.
And has this expansion to these other countries, was that after you kind of got out of the business?
No, I was very much back and forth from Hong Kong, where we primarily sold to expats,
Right. Okay. I mean,
European style people, not so much to the local population. Pret a Manger, we tried to develop it in America, where they do eat, they do drink coffee and they eat bread and butter and sandwiches and salads and things. But it's still quite early days. I think how McDonald's was like 40 or 50, no, probably 30 years old before it even launched breakfast, I think.
Yeah.
So in its involvement, Pret a Manger is still quite young.
Yeah.
Will it adapt, ready to eat in different countries? We'll see. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't work for Pret a Manger, so I don't know anymore.
What are some of your favourite cities and what have they taught you?
God, I think you always learn you learn so much by immersing yourself in the food cultures of different cities. Next week I'm going to many cities in East Asia, lots. I'm going to 3 in Vietnam, 2 or 3 in the north in China. I'm going to Japan again, Osaka, because only by watching and learning can you pick up tweaks, you know.
But from not next week's trip, but like before, like what are some of those lovely, delicious nuances that you've picked up from cities?
There's so many. There's just so many. Wouldn't know where to begin. But in the end of the day, you've got to focus on your product and your business. You can take inspiration from other people. You can take inspiration from flavors. It doesn't matter what you do, but in the end, it is about your product and your relationship, your product's relationship with its customer. And if you try and take on too much and change it every day, you'll just break it. So you've got to have quite a clear vision. And actually, ITSU a fascinating thing because we've changed it about 3 or 4 times massively, and now it's finished. But we have rebuilt it from scratch 3 times in an effort to try and find the harmony which is forever.
So what were the 3? When were the 3?
Oh my God! Well, the first one we built about 5 or 6 really fabulous restaurants, which were built on a Kai-10 system. So in Japan, you know, it's brilliant. They make food, it goes round on a conveyor, you sit down, you help yourself. And some of our restaurants, we did that system, which we studied a lot in Japan. It was so successful. I mean, really extraordinary. The problem with that idea is it's very difficult to grow it. They cost an enormous amount to build.
To get conveyor belts in.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
So after about number 5, we decided to opened our first takeaway, much more affordable, much quicker.
What year is that? Ballpark?
I don't know, 98 or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
2000. And that was immensely successful. So then we stopped doing any more restaurants and started building 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of these new places. And then about 10 years after that, we realized that the real future in this is affordable, nutritious food. So keep working with the menu development so it just becomes more and more and more nutritious, because that's the greatest need and opportunity in the food business today: affordable, healthy, nutritious food. So in our case, it was like 40%, 95% under 500, no frying at all. Everything must be steamed. Everything must be nutritious. Brown rice, not white. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And today it's about no chemicals, trying to get rid of every single UPF. So you're able to walk in, spend under 10 quid and get something which is genuinely good for you. And that's where we're nearly there. Then we did one last huge change 5 years ago when we put all the food behind the counters. We spent an untold amount of money changing.
Why did you do that?
We did it because in some countries, self-service food screams supermarket. It screams poor quality. It screams it's come from a factory somewhere. It's not great for an atmosphere with seating. Yes. So for those 2 reasons, we decided to convert and build where the food was behind, and you ordered it. And the first 3 or 4 worked very well, actually. But then we soon realized it's not what our customers really want. What our customers want above all else is to be put in control. In other words, they want to be, they want convenience. Mm-hmm. They want to choose their own food. They want to pick it up and look at it. They want to know how much everything costs. It's really about, for them, it's about being in control. So when we moved the food all from the back, all back to the front, over 6 months, we suddenly found we were serving twice as many people. So that is now the model going forward.
You moved all the food behind.
Yeah, we moved all the food behind. A bit like a restaurant, where you go into a restaurant, you look at a piece of paper, you order it from somebody, and they bring it to you.
Yeah.
It was that it wasn't quite as bad as that, but it was that style of system, as opposed to looking at it, picking it up, holding it, and buying it. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Radically different system.
Radically, yes.
Well, think of it. Nearly every single place you go to eat, you walk in and you sit down, and someone comes and you take your order. Except even in McDonald's. In McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, all those places, you walk in, you order, and then you wait, and then the food comes. Only really in supermarkets do you walk in and pick up your food, where all that food comes is 3 days old or 4 days old. It's all come from a factory. But in Pret a Manger, for instance, it's all made there. So maybe we've pursued, which is a very complex way of doing it, making it right there in every place. You have no idea how many problems are with that. It's a hell of a challenge, but if you can do it, it's magic.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't know if you said this to me, but it's like hard is an unfair advantage, whereby if you do something that's really hard, i.e. making
It's
it
really hard.
really hard, but if you run at that problem with your care, your sort of all
If you
those...
stick with it as we have, you can crack it. But it's hard because you need unbelievable amount of tenacity to recreate all the equipment, all the menu, there's thousands of challenges. But once you deal with them all, you can do it.
What's your mindset towards running at hard problems?
Well, it depends. You have to try and see the end, don't you? You have to decide, is it worth going through these 2 years of hell if the result gets our customers a better product at a better price, and it reduces the stress on our team? So it's those three things. There's that harmony. Is the product much better? Will it make our customers much happier? And will it make our teams happier? Yes. If the answer is yes to those three things, you do it at any cost.
Yes.
At any cost.
There's I'm reading a book by Izzy, second name's escaped me, the founder of Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Unbelievable book. And he's got a quote which is excellence is the ability to withstand pain. And it's almost that, as you say, it's that 2 years of hell. But if you really grind at something, you'll find excellence in that.
And that's what it is.
I want to talk about, I get very distracted. I'm asking this selfishly, but I believe distractions sometimes masquerade as opportunities. And I think this happens to a lot of founders, whereby you can think something's an opportunity, but actually it's a distraction. And I want to talk about sort of, there's a book I love by Ray Dalio called Principles.
Yeah, no, I've read it.
You've read it,
Twice, yeah.
It's brilliant. He talks about first and second and
Of course
third.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, third order consequences.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think I'd love to know about, so what he sort of says, he goes, most people look at first order consequences. So it could be something like, let's launch a piece of new MPD.
I know.
It's more for listeners, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So he'll be like, let's launch a new piece of MPD. That will get us into Tesco.
Sure, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But then the second order consequence of that decision is, oh shit, you've got to go and focus to make that work. The third order consequence is you've wasted loads of time there. You've end up neglecting your core. Like I did a talk at Vita Coco the other week, and they've got a wall of MPD, which hasn't worked.
Yeah, of course.
And the whole point of that they were saying to me, is to really reinforce that distractions can masquerade as opportunities. What's your sort of decision-making process in terms of this first order, second, third?
So that's why a founder may have a vision, but you're only as good as the people you work with, okay?
Yeah.
So obviously, it goes without saying, a founder, people like me and many other founders, are full of ideas. All we have is frigging ideas.
Yeah.
So what you've got to do is try and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who are able to put in some degree of process and thinking about what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Why are we going to do it? Just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean it is a good idea. So in ITSU Grocery, we have a whole gate system, gate 1, gate 2. They even have funny names.
What's the gate system?
Oh, it's obvious. It's about, it's about trying to evaluate a frigging idea. Unless you have an evaluation process of an idea, you'll never ever feed any ideas in, good or bad. So you've got to create a process. And there's a lot of respect for this process. There's a lot of people much smarter than me created this process. And I think the gate 1 it's in the field. Gate 2 is like, gate 1 is not even in through the gate. It's actually,
when you say it's in the field,
an idea, someone's idea. Let's do seaweed thins.
Okay.
What the? So it's not even it's outside the gate, and then the process of the gate is, it's at the gate, it's viable in terms of it's commercial, it's all the obvious stuff, and then gate 2 is when you've assigned the team to it, the product's underway. I think there are 5 gates, and I respect that process massively.
What are the other 3 gates?
Well, it's how it progresses.
Yeah.
How it progresses. Gate 5 is it's been approved. The team who are involved in buying it, let's say at Sainsbury's or something, have approved it. They like it, and it's been ordered, and it's going and hitting the shelves in March. That's gate 5. Gate 1 is it's not even there. It's like outside. It's a crazy idea, but we all have crazy. We all meet, all of us at ITSU Grocery, once a year in my home, actually, for 2 days, and all we do is discuss crazy ideas. What does anyone think? And we meet in groups and teams, and anything goes. I think someone said we should do fortune cookies, so we're doing fortune cookies. It's taken a year to find a company who can make fortune cookies without any artificial ingredients, but that's a great idea. Let's do fortune cookies.
What are some of the crazy ideas that
there are hundreds.
Didn't get through?
I can't even tell you there's so many. I mean,
oh really?
Oh yeah, of course.
Is there any that really spring to mind? Some of your favourites?
No. But there have been so many ideas which haven't worked, or many for me. But the main thing is you create a gate process. You can discuss them and process them. Same with ITSU restaurants. We have 5, I think, Fraser's test shops where we test everything. So what do the consumers think? What do the staff think? What are the problems? So we test it.
Yes.
We don't share that. No one, the customers of those 5 restaurants don't know they're a test restaurant, but they are. And so we'll respect the data. We'll test it. And then if it works, we'll launch it. That's obvious. Everyone does that.
Yeah, so no, it's obvious, but it's reminding me of the sort of the speed of Adam's car racing, balancing with data, and then linking it all together with being close to the customer. What's back to the Ray Dalio first, second, third order consequences of decision making? But I made this mistake this year, right? So I thought I could set up a production company, first order consequence of decision making, produce other people's podcasts, right? I was like, that could be a good way to make money. I need money coming in.
Sure.
The second order of that, so I ended up having loads of pitches with potential other podcasters. I was like, we'll produce it all for you, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, fucking hell, like this is taking away from me doing my best work with my main podcast, Hungry. I'm getting completely, so that's the second order consequences. Third order consequence was that I was just getting completely distracted. And before you know it, you're just down a rabbit hole. So I've now bin that off. I'd love to know what was the first order a decision you made, and then what were the sort of the second, third order consequences of that decision that weren't as appetizing as the first order.
Okay, so that's a very complex question you just asked me, and I didn't really understand any of it. So in other words, the way your mind works is you tend to overcomplicate things a bit.
Yes.
That's just some advice.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. What on earth was that last 30 seconds of jargon?
30 seconds of jargon. So
keep it really simple. Just try and translate it into something which is really simple.
When have you made a decision?
Yeah. Whenever I made a decision
you thought was good initially.
Yeah.
You've gone down the road with that decision.
Okay, but I don't even need to let you finish hundreds of times. Why? Because I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
So don't keep on digging to find weaknesses in yourself and pain. We're all human. This is normal. We all do this. Don't worry about it. Don't over-analyze the obvious.
That's
You're not a perfect human being.
That's
You'll never.
all the time.
Well, then stop it.
I always overanalyze constantly. It's like my brain's like a little.
No, well, you have to try and stop it. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I'd love to.
Very few people can really read principles. But it's you have to be really dedicated to read that book, and that's why most people, a great many people, don't, because it's very well written, but it's complex.
What did you take
when you start breaking it down? I think he writes very well. It's interesting. I've read probably hundreds of those books. I'm fascinated by trying to claw information, but I read them and I try and find out a couple of kernels of what's really, really key here. Dalia's written, there's another book he's written about, there's another one, I've forgotten what it's called, it's very, very clever, about assessing human beings, the results of people, how you motivate and reward people. Very clever, but very difficult to do. Very, very, very difficult to do.
And what's your sort of reward mechanism in place for those four?
You see, in a way, the more you dig and the more complex this is, my job to you is to keep reminding you there are really only the 5 things that matter. 1, the product, the product and its relationship with the customer. So your product, you do podcasts. Think about I was with someone last night who does podcasts. He does podcasts. And actually, he just did a podcast with the President of the United States. They rung up and said, would you come and interview Biden? Why do you think that happened? Interesting. Like, what was it about this guy's podcast which made the team who worked for the president ring him up? And
that's mad.
Yeah.
Who was it? You want me to ask you?
It's called Simon Sinek.
Oh, yeah. Start with why.
Yes.
Yes.
He's just interviewed Biden.
That's amazing.
But he was asked to.
Yeah.
So what is it about Simon's podcast which is good? In fact, if you look at in your business, all the top podcasts, you need to be asking yourself, why? Why do you think, for instance, that guy, Diary of a CEO, why do you think so many people enjoy watching him? Why? Why has he got a bigger audience than you? Do you care? What are you going to do about it? I don't know. Just be honest.
Yeah, if I'm being brutally honest, I want to...
And what can you learn from that?
I think he's amazing at the kind of the full package of the podcast. Back to the product. So he's got, I think, a team of like 30 people doing all the sort of the thumbnails. They A/B split test all the titles. And I was even saying the other day to my editor, Jeff, was like, we should be studying what he's doing on those titles. What I disagree with him on is I personally like to follow my own curiosity, even if that is somewhat complicated at times, because I think that gets me out of
He's complicated too. He's a very, very empathetic, brilliant interviewer, I think. But he was first. That's always helpful when you're first. But you need to carve out your own area. It was very interesting. I only responded to you months ago when you said you wanted to do food. You called it Hungry. It was about food. I thought it was fascinating. Food and drink. If you specialize in something for a period of time, you can do well in it. You really can. But the main thing is to be very objective and truthful about your product. You are in the podcast business. That's what you do. At the moment. Now, I'm not saying that you maybe in 2 years you'll do something completely different, but as long as you're in the podcast business, you better be honest about your podcast. Nothing else matters. Your product's everything.
Yes.
It's everything.
And what are some of the...
It's really everything. I know it's an inconvenient truth, but it is everything. All my career, people have come to see me. They ring me up. I have the best brownie in the world. I'd like you. Of course, I say, yes, I'd love to see your brownie. And they come and they put the brownie down. It's disgusting because they can't be bothered to go out and buy and test their brownie against other people's. They're literally too lazy. And they honestly think that, do you see what I mean? This happens all the time.
Yes, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because they don't have the IQs. They don't practice them.
Yes.
They don't. They're too busy pursuing their dream and they forget to sit there and actually be honest.
Honest with the product.
Honest with the product, yeah.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. As I said to you before, Julian, you've got this ability just to find, which is why it's so therapeutic for my complex brain, to find simplicity.
So much more simple than you think.
Yeah.
And the solution of often is just as simple too.
Say that again, sorry.
Well, with podcasts, now they've gone from no podcasts 10 years ago to literally hundreds of thousands. Clearly the future of podcasts is going to be to focus, specialize. But so as long as you're not specializing, you're slowly going to get, it's going to get harder and harder. You've got to probably specialize in the various areas, so people around the world are loyal to you because of the subject.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about negotiations and some of the hardest negotiations you've been through in well, we talk about Pret or ITSU.
Sure.
And yeah, if you parachute us into one of the hardest negotiations you've been through. Like,
I'm not very good at negotiating. I don't have the right temperament at all to negotiate with people. Everyone around me is far better than I am at doing it. I like to get things done, therefore I'm a very weak negotiator. I'm not at all strategic as a person.
Interesting.
I have a vision for something. I'm not very good at doing that. So people around me don't let me negotiate. They're much better than I am.
And so your emotion overtakes you.
100% every time.
Interesting.
Of course. Yeah.
And who are some of the best negotiation people you've
To know
around
that,
you?
there are lots of people who work in ITSU 10 times better than me. 10 times.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. As I can see, you've got this ability to just, as you say, move at that relentless pace, but then put people around you that can kind of.
Yeah, of course, because you have to believe in them. You have to believe they have the IQs, and they do. So let them get on with what they're good at, and trust them.
What's one truth you believe that most people would disagree with you on?
Oh God, I've never thought about that. I don't dwell on that type of subject, which is, what do I know that no one else knows? It's bullshit.
Not necessarily, but what no one else knows.
I don't think it's not kind of constructive. I told you that my goal, my definition of success is when I don't need to be here at all. Because I've taught people, or I've coached them, or I've allowed them, or I've mentored them to make the vision of what we do in this tiny company better without me than with me. That's my definition of success. I don't bring much to the table, except a vision in the case of a product. This product could be magical. Let's work towards that. And now more and more people who I work with are exactly the same as me. We keep improving our products because they too have seen we can make the products magical. And if a product's magical, people will pay 10p more, 20p more, 30p more. I mean, in many, many cases in the world, people are paying 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times as much for a magical product. I'm only asking them to pay 20p more or 50p more. It's amazing. The opportunity to make food better is incredible. It really is. Honestly, it really is, especially East Asian food.
Yeah. Talk to me about Noops. Is it Noops?
Noops is an interesting one. I joined the team there, and I'm fascinated by anyone who comes up with a concept which is so simple.
Yeah.
And can something that simple engage with customers going forward? I'm fascinated by it. I really.
What's the simplicity of
all it does is one thing. It just sells hot chocolate, really. And I thought, that's interesting. How can you sell that much hot chocolate to 3,000 or 4,000 people every week in one little tiny store? What is it? That's fascinating. That's fascinating. So I only joined them because I wanted to learn how. Really, what is going on here? You see, there are lots of places in the world, and a great many people have proved excellence has this magical attraction to human beings. It could be handbags made by Hermes, or it could be a jacket from Chanel. It could be a pair of Wellington boots from Hunt. It doesn't matter what it is. I have my shoes are made by this Australian brand, and I love this brand. They make great boots, and they're from Oz, So we have a relationship with products as human beings, But the product, to create that loyalty, has got to be great. So there's a company in America called In-N-Out Burgers. They're very cheap, but they're delicious. They only do one product.
Yeah, aren't they only in California? As well?
Yeah. Because for lots of reasons, the founders won't do this. They won't franchise. They won't, they've really got it right. They really
I
are
think
lazy.
they're only in California, right?
Because they don't want to dilute. It's not about making more money. It's about running their business well. If you look at study the way they make their equipment or the way they make their furniture. It's fabulous. It's absolutely incredible what they do. Now, these are all the things that someone in my industry would know. But to a consumer who's not in my industry, they just go and get a $3 hamburger, which is delicious. I mean, if you like hamburgers, but it's fucking remarkable. So doing very little very well is rather, I find, captivating. Very interesting.
Doing
Very
well. Yeah,
doing what's that company called? It makes Tabasco. One family-owned company
Yeah.
since 1820 or something. That's all it does. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Worcester sauce, another one. There's so many. So in other words, people dedicated to excellence. Really dedicated to excellence. Fascinating subject. And I don't know if Canoops falls into that category yet. It's too early. But maybe.
And you said you went in there to learn.
Well, I went in there to learn, I've learned about the offering up of excellence and giving customers this unique journey where they can choose up to 20 different cocoa solids. Do you remember in the old days you just bought chocolate? Well, now people buy 60%, 70%, 80% from Colombia, from all these places. It's like, wow. So do people want to have a relationship with chocolate like that deep? Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm interested. I think it's fascinating.
How do you think about, from those tenants, how do you think about storytelling?
I think storytelling is really important. I think telling the backstory and the romance of a product and how it's been created is really interesting for people. I think people crave that. I think human beings, I love the backstory of how a product's made. I really do.
And how has that been different between, as we were talking about earlier, the warmth in store, where you can kind of really get that energy across?
Sure. Well, it's much more important.
Versus.
No. It's 10 to 1. I mean, what matters is the environment and the people and everything. The story is only interesting to those people who already are loyal followers of yours. Because you need to explain why. Why does this work? What do we stand for? It's all a complete waste of time until you're offering up what matters, which is the warmth, the hospitality, the good product. All of that is 10 times more important than the bloody story. The product, you see, it's the product again.
Yes. So Seth on the podcast last week was saying that there's a link between strategy and storytelling. And he was like, the two need to dance together. So he was like, the strategy.
Yeah, but the strategy is much more important. The product, let's not use that word strategy.
You hate the word strategy?
The product is
much
more important than the storytelling.
Yeah, it links to Seth, what Seth's saying, but it's just you just take out the word strategy, replace it with product.
Your podcasts and how good they are and is 100 times more important than why you're doing them or who you are or where you came from or anything. It's boring. What matters is your product. No one cares about you or me. They care about the product.
What are some of your favourite failures?
God, I don't have favourites. I mean, I'm sure I've learned much more big things from different things, but...
The one that taught you the most then?
Well, over and over again, the courage to hire and work with people who are much smarter than you is probably the best advice I could give myself. And over again, I found real joy and real success has come from having the guts and the courage to hire people who are much more capable than myself in any particular field or generally. And that's hard to do, I can assure you.
That kind of links to that founder mode at the beginning. Why is that so hard?
It's hard because there's something in every human being who wants to build a business which you have a sort of need to try and control the outcome. And by having the guts to hire someone who's much smarter and more capable than you're kind of throwing that out the window. Because basically you're starting with a concept of trust before you've even hired them. So they're not there to do as you ask.
Yes.
They're not there to do as you say.
Yeah.
They're there to partner with you and make a vision real. And that may mean giving up the vision, changing the vision, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But that takes real courage. So that's the best bit of advice I think I could probably give anyone which I've learned from my career. Have the guts to hire people who are much smarter and more capable than you.
Who's been that person or someone you've put in place that has taught you
Lots.
Yeah, like
It's not just who I put in place, it's who they put in place.
Yeah.
I attend dozens and dozens of meetings every month, often with people who are far more capable than I am, and that's why we're successful, I think.
What are some businesses that really excite you or inspire you right now?
Oh, I don't know. They move. It's an ever-moving thing, isn't it? When you get amazing service or commitment from people, it's always so encouraging. It's so great. And that'll be either that's a moment in time or it's from a culture which is sustainable. And there are many businesses which have amazing cultures, and there are many businesses which don't. But it's elusive, an amazing culture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a good point, that elusive. And as we were talking about at the beginning, that sort of that swinging between the two things, it is a kind of a constantly elusive thing that you're trying to just.
I get customer letters every single day. My email is on the bag, and I invite everyone to write whenever they want, as often as they want, because I think it sets a good example to be accountable. But I got a really mad email this morning at about 5 a.m, because I wake up quite early, and it was pretty odd, quite rude. But I thought, no, I'll answer it politely. So I answered it very politely.
What did it say?
I'm not going to tell you because I don't want the person who there's a 1 in a million chance I see this. But it was really pretty aggressive and rude. So I replied very politely. But what I got back was 7 or 8 paragraphs of someone who's clearly mentally really challenged because of their environment or something which has happened to them, and they fall into the sort of 1 in 1,000 people who's obviously very troubled, not going through a really bad, hard time, and they're taking it out on whoever, And so it's interesting. I think everyone who's watching, who makes a product or sells a product, I think you genuinely do have to believe that 99 out of 100 people mean well, they're good, they're honest, and they're worth engaging with, and they're worth struggling to sell a great product to. 99 out of 100. Don't get depressed by the one. The one who, we see shoplifting higher than ever before. Don't let the bad and the negativity depress your commitment to excellence. Don't. Try not to. Don't let it get you down.
Can you use it as a force as well?
I don't know, but just the main thing is don't let it get you down. Just because 1 in 100 people is a thief or is cruel, or don't let it get you down. Don't.
And when you're getting those emails in,
yes,
and I think it links back to, again, I love this, your ability to find simple things.
Yeah.
You're getting this information in, and that makes you very privy and close to the customer. You're getting, as you be there, right? You're being right there. You sort of, how do you sort of absorb what they're saying and then pass it onto the team?
Because we have a system.
Yeah, what is that system?
The emails are shared already to about 8 different people, then they go out to everybody. It's a very simple system. We have another system whereby we write in quite a nice, cool way to thousands of customers every month, and it's written in such a way that's really engaging. It's very short, and they just tell us how their experience was in that particular local ITSU. And I think we got 567 back last week, of which 18 were bad. So I tend to be one of those people who will dive straight into the 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to you're almost looking for where the issue is.
Yeah, where are the weak links?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is irritating for the people I work with, because life's tough enough without that. But, that's the way we are, and that's probably helped make us very objective about what it is we do.
Yeah, I think it's I'd love to, linking into this simplicity thing, because I as you say, complicate things. My brain's kind of moving at a gazillion miles per hour all the time.
I mustn't. Things are not that complicated.
Yeah, I know, I understand that, but it's I think a lot of people I speak to, who listen to this podcast, we do sort of events and stuff, there is this, but as you say, Julian, is complexity is easy and simplicity is hard. I love that quote, which you said the first time we talked. What are other ways to simplify thinking?
I don't know, just discipline. Keep doing it. Keep accepting every day that you're someone like so many of us. We're going to add complexity at every opportunity. How do you not? Surround yourself with people who help you. Keep things simple.
Yeah, I'm asking, again, selfishly here. So when you said the discipline of and repeating it, like, what is that? Is that asking a question like, say you've got loads of things on, and you're saying like, what? I think Tim Ferriss asks a question which I have actually used, which you may have loads of. Maybe you're trying to achieve a goal, and he says, write on a piece of paper, and this is what founder of Brewdog said as well, is what would this look like if it was easy? And it's like a discipline of but by asking yourself that question, it filters out all the waffle in your brain. Do you know what I mean? Is there anything you've got like specifically like that?
I see. Yeah. God, no, I haven't prepared an answer for that because I don't genuinely have it.
So you've just got a brain that's very simple, just find simple things.
And I try. I usually make things very complicated and then I try and simplify them a bit. I'm not very good at what I just because that's the goal doesn't mean I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
I do understand, but unless things are simple, you're never going to be able to grow them. I mean, you can make things as complicated as you want if it's just you, but if you want to be able to grow and contact more people and involve more human beings, things have got to be reasonably simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I should think the way that this guy made it, the Apple phone, he must have, it must be one of the most complicated things in the world, but he managed to simplify its production and its design and its systems. Yeah. He must have done. Otherwise, how could he have achieved it? Same with the interior, a modern motor car or something. I mean, you've got to control that complexity so it comes together.
Yeah.
A lot of that calls for decision making. A lot.
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Well, that'll call for a lot of decision making.
Right.
By human beings who are able and have the confidence to say, yes, we'll do it. No, yes, no. That calls for confidence. You don't get that without trust. So do you understand what I'm trying to say? Complexity. To kill off complexity and reach simplicity, you're going to have thousands of decisions where people are saying yes, no, yes, no. That will only happen with confidence and trust. If you don't have confidence and you don't have trust, you won't have decisions. Then you get chaos.
You don't have confidence and trust.
Well, look at the average, everything. Life is just so frigging complicated because there's a lack of decisions by people. I mean, just...
Come a bit closer, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's the problem. I'm not going to give you... Everywhere you go, life's complicated. You can't get through to customer services. You can't book an airline. You can't do anything without complexity.
Yeah, I know. It's such a universal truth.
Yeah.
And again, another thing Seth said, he was talking about the strategy of Lotus, the cars.
Yeah.
The founder of that, and he said it's all about simplify, then add lightness. And he goes, that's the goal of a business, is to simplify, then add lightness. And
what does he mean by lightness, you think?
So he talks about that's what I was probing him on that. I was like, what do you mean by the lightness? And the analogy he talked about is when someone's running, he uses the example of his neighbor running. And you can either sort of run and you're sort of going against it like that, or you can sort of just be in it.
Oh, lightness.
Yeah, lightness, yeah.
Right.
I suppose it's a bit like what you were saying about the lightness, I suppose, for you, is if you've got that trust and that confidence, then it's all yes, no decisions, yes, no decisions.
It's easy.
Is there an example of that with a product you've made where you've just had that?
No, all the time. It's
trust.
It's always something we as a group of people here are searching for all the time. You have to feed it.
Feed it.
You have to feed it. You have to allow it. You have to encourage it. And when you can see there's indecision, you have to sometimes let it rest for a few seconds. You can only get there with encouragement. Confidence and a clear vision. What are we trying to achieve? It's not that difficult. Make a decision. There's no right or wrong, but make the decision.
And that, I suppose, links to the speed as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes back to the culture of the company. What happens when you make a mistake? Is it okay? It's fine. I make mistakes all the time. We all make mistakes. Just don't make the same ones again and again,
What are some questions you believe founders should be asking themselves a lot?
Just ask yourself about the product. Is the product better? It's all that matters. Is the product better? Well, the definition of the word better is, that's complex. Better.
Yeah, well, that's another thing.
I mean, that's your definition of your product being better is different to mine, but that's pretty easy to work out.
Some people say there's a strategist guy called Alex Smith who says, "Don't be different, not better."
Yeah.
As in, every man is dog's basically saying, "I'm better,
Sure.
better." What's your?
There's no point being different without being better. That's actually pointless. That's just silly. I'm not saying it's wrong, but personally, I think that's just stupid.
Because
anyone could be different, but what's the benefit to the customer of your product? What's the benefit? I mean,
yeah,
being different's not good enough. Your podcast could be different. I mean, maybe you're going to do them in a swimming pool or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But why are they better?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah. It's just out of all the hundreds of interviews I've done with founders, there's a common arc, which is, be the category of one, be different in the sense of
be better.
Be better. Yeah.
Be more engaging. Listen, it's very basic. A podcast. All you're trying to do is engage with people. It couldn't be more simple. Podcast. I mean, it's basic. So, are yours more engaging or less? Now, you could say, to make them more engaging, I need to do them in a swimming pool. Fine, then do it in a bloody swimming pool. But it's really basic. It's not complicated.
The simplicity thing, I find endlessly.
Well, you better work at it.
Endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, you've got to work at it.
What other ways do you think I can work on it?
I don't know.
And then we'll
just come back to the product. My advice: always come back to the product.
Got to run. Look, I've absolutely loved that, Julian.
You're brilliant. So my advice.